Hello viewers, welcome to the Bachelor course of Population Studies. In our last lecture, we discussed about the future population of India. Today, we will discuss about population and development. At the very onset of this lecture, let us imagine the two words, the population and the development. The word population brings forth us a mass of people huddling together. But how do we imagine development? Of course, the word development has a very positive connotation, pushing our imaginations that gives a nice feeling to our nerves. Now, imagining both of these words together, can the mass of people give a nice feeling? Why not? Mass of people organized in nice patterns, working with and for each other, collectively gives a very nice feeling indeed. Here, I just want to draw your attention that we are talking about development and not growth. The growth is a quantitative phenomena, while development is a qualitative one. While growth merely shows an increase in number of a given entity, development means improvement in quality of that very entity. Growth cannot always be imagined nicely. A mere increase in numbers may be lopsided based upon many sacrifices, sufferings of the majority, while development encompasses all the sections of the society in a balanced and equitable manner. Therefore, thinking about population and development together means how both of these variables they affect each other positively. Development has people at their center. Development means enhancing the capabilities of the people in order to achieve better standards of life. It also means the enhanced freedom of choice. Development is also associated with sustainability, removal of poverty, achievement of gender equity, and equity among all social groups of the society. All these aspects are influenced by and in turn influence the growth of population. Therefore, it is interesting to discuss population and development in relation to each other. So, let us come to the theoretical perspectives of population and development. There are a number of theories which show the relationship between population growth and economic development. These views can broadly be divided into the pessimistic views and the optimistic views. The pessimist view states that population growth has negative impact upon the development, as with higher size of population, the governments have to spend more on education, health, housing, etc. And since the developing countries have fewer resources, the availability and quality of these services declines with the bigger size of population. As population grows, the employment opportunities are further constrained, per capita income falls, people are also left with fewer resources to raise their human capital levels. In contrast to it, the optimist view states that population is a source of the much desired human factor. Bigger population size means easy availability of human resources to productively employ the natural as well as the capital resources. It is believed that in less populated economies, availability of labor can be a major constraint, while the highly populated economies, they enjoy the advantage of cheap labor, leading to lower cost of production and of course the comparative advantage in the international market. In more organized form, we can find the pessimistic view on the relationship between population and economic development in the works of Malthus and his disciples. According to these views, if the population growth exceeds the capacity of agriculture to sustain growing population, it leads to the adjustment through famines, epidemics, wars, etc. Any increase in income is absorbed through higher population growth, leading to constant wages at survival levels in the long run. Therefore, the population growth must be checked through preventive checks such as abstinence, delayed marriages, etc. However, the views by Kuznets and Bostrup show a positive association of population growth with economic development. Kuznets and others put forth the idea that the innovations and technical progress are endogenous to population size. They say that people are not just labor, they are also creators and innovators. Therefore, higher the size of population, higher will be the chances that the world would get another Einstein or Mozart. Bostrup went a step further by empirically proving that the countries with higher population densities invest more in irrigation, fertilizers, and productivity enhancing techniques. Thus, the size of population is positively associated with greater flow of technological improvements. Finally, we also have another view in shape of the demographic theory of transition. The demographic theory of transition states that the growth of population is largely associated with the level of economic growth in a society. It states that in poor economies with low nutritional standards and scanty health facilities, the death rate as well as the birth rate is high, leading to very low growth of population, while in the developing stage, though the death rates fall with better resources to spend upon health and nutrition, the birth rate is still very high, leading to very high growth of population. Finally, the countries enter into the trajectory of faster economic growth. Both the death and the birth rates fall, and the growth rate of population that declines. This theory actually takes the stage of economic development as the determinant of the growth of population rather than the other way around. Now, it is important to look the relationship between population growth and human development. If we look at the world with countries at different levels of economic development, we can observe that the level of economic development and human development, they go hand in hand. But the poor economies with bigger size of population have lower levels of human development. Looking from this angle, it seems that the size of population has its negative impact upon the level of human development as well as income of the country. But if we take a specific case of a single country and look at the historical trends, we can see that in each economy, the size of population, economic and human development, they have gone hand in hand. It is difficult to answer which is the cause and which is the effect. However, the experience of the developed economies have stated that as the population grows, the countries have greater tendency to allocate their resources in a planned way, spend more in efficiency enhancing methods so that the capabilities of people as well as the quality of their life that can be improved. We can also have a glimpse of population growth, per capita income, and some indicators of human development in this figure. The figure shows that the population growth in India has not in any way inhibited the process of development in the society. We can easily see that the population growth has been positively associated with income, literacy rate, and life expectancy, while we can see a negative association of population growth in India with birth rate and the death rate between the period 1950-51 to 2011-12. This shows that as the population in the country has increased, the literacy rate, the life expectancy and the per capita income have also increased, leading to an improvement in Human Development Index, which is a composite indicator of income, life expectancy and literacy rate. Thus, we can say that the population growth and the level of human development in the country have been positively associated. Similarly, we can also observe that the population size has grown. We have also witnessed a decline in birth rates as well as the death rates. However, let us not quickly jump to the conclusion that the increases in population sizes are good for development indicators, as the human development or development as a whole may also be judged from some other indicators such as per capita availability of food, the population below poverty line and the degree of inequality. Although the per capita income has increased, the poverty rates have declined, but at the same time, the per capita availability of food has declined along with the increase in size of population in India. We can also witness an increase in income and consumption inequalities in the country. Now, these trends do not comply with the concept of development. The trends in income inequalities along with the population growth can be witnessed from this figure. The figure shows that as the population has increased in India, there is also an increase in inequalities measured as the Gini ratio. The inequalities in rural areas have remained in a narrow range of 0.28 to 0.3, but the urban areas have experienced a continuous increase in inequalities. Since our population is also urbanizing itself, we can say that population of India is moving from the locations with less inequalities to the areas with greater inequalities. Another important aspect is the relationship between population and sustainable development. By sustainable development, we simply mean development without wastage of natural resources. The World Commission for Environment and Development states that sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. Growing population means presence of many people sharing a limited number of resources which may strain the environment. Further, growing urbanization put extra constraints. India has witnessed rapid urbanization in the last few years. The urban population has been growing and is projected to grow at a much faster rate than the rural population. Moreover, majority of the urban population of India lives in small cities, which generates a huge pressure on public infrastructure, including basic health and sanitation services, creating a disorganized urban landscape and constitutes a social crisis that can result in major health risks and poses the threat to sustainable development. This growth in urban population leads to creation of urban slums, which are at high risk from outbreak of contagious diseases such as tuberculosis, malaria, dengue, cholera, typhoid and plague, resulting from these poor environmental conditions. Actually, environmental degradation is linked closely to unsustainable production and consumption patterns. However, with rising middle class, developing countries, including India, are taking initiatives to promote sustainable consumption. The National Geographic's Globe Scan has ranked India and Brazil as first in terms of environmentally sustainable consumption and lifestyles, yet it has also noticed a fall in the value of its Green Dex score. The Green Dex score is a measure of consumer behavior in 65 areas relating to housing, transportation, food and consumer goods. But it is also a fact that India's sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide as well as nitrous emissions are also increasing. In a report carried out by Terry on environmental Kuznets curves, India's total sulfur dioxide and nitrous emissions had increased from almost 7.12 million metric tons to 9.82 million metric tons between 1995 and 2005, which means a compound annual growth rate of 3.63%. Similarly, India has also witnessed an increase in carbon dioxide emissions. The carbon emissions in India since 1968 can be observed from these figures. This figure shows a rising curve for carbon emissions, which has risen more sharply after 1984. Actually, the population growth has dual pressure on environment. It increases the use of natural resources and it also increases the waste that has been generated by the population. Both of these taken together may endanger the goal of sustainable development. With poor sanitation facilities and access to water, population growth may actually impede the process of economic development. Although India's achievement on the access to safe drinking water is appreciable, yet its progress on sanitation facilities is quite dismal. The proportion of population in India using basic sanitation facilities increased from merely 14% in 1990 to about 50% in 2008, but it is very far away from achieving the target of 62% to be achieved in 2015 as defined by the UN Millennium Development Goals. On the other hand, India's achievements on access to safe drinking water can be observed from this figure. The figure shows that in 1981, merely 38.2% of the households in India had access to safe drinking water, but by the year 2012, this proportion increased to 85.5%, and we have already achieved the target of covering 83% of the households by 2015. Although the achievements on the target of safe drinking water are quite laudable, the slow progress in provision of sanitation facilities is a sore of the eyes, as until this hindrance is not cleared, the health targets are hard to achieve. A recent report by Government of India has clearly indicated that due to these reasons, we will be unable to achieve the target of infant and maternal mortality. The progress and the gap in the target to be achieved in 2015 are shown in this figure. The figure shows that India has made considerable progress in reducing the under 5 mortality rate, the infant mortality rate and the maternal mortality rate despite rapid growth of population. The under 5 mortality rate has declined from 125 deaths per thousand of live births in 1990 to merely 55 per thousand in 2011. It is expected that it will decline further to 50 per thousand in 2015, but we would miss the target set by Millennium Development Goals of 42 per thousand. Similarly, in case of infant mortality, we have come down from 80 per thousand live births in 1990 to 42 per thousand in 2012 and expect it to be 41 per thousand in 2015, which will miss the target of 27 per thousand to be achieved on the same date. On the other hand, the maternal mortality ratio, which is defined as deaths of women due to maternal reasons per lakh of live births, will also miss the target of 109 deaths per lakh of population, although it has significantly declined from 437 per lakh in 1990 to 212 per lakh in 2012 and are expected to come down at 139 per lakh in 2015. Now let us come to the conclusion of this lecture. Generally, population growth is considered to be a constraint to development in a society, but since population provides important source of human factor, no development is possible without adequate size of population. It has been proved empirically that overpopulated societies invest more in productivity enhancing techniques in agriculture for providing more of the food grains to their ever-growing population. Thus, population growth raises the need to innovate, which enhances the productive capacity of the factors as well as the economy as a whole. Had the population growth been a major constraint, it would not have led to improvements in the human development levels of the countries. The experience of the developing economies in general and India in particular has shown that the increase in population size as well as density of population has gone hand in hand with the increase in life expectancy, literacy rate, as well as the per capita income, resulting into increase in the value of Human Development Index. But looking at the bleak side, we should not ignore the negative effects of population growth. The growth of population also leads to increase in carbon, sulfur, as well as nitrous emissions. With increase in the population sizes, the governments find it harder to provide the basic facilities to all segments of the population, which not only leads to rise in inequalities, but also a constraint on the targets to be achieved for the well-being of the society. For development of the society, it is essential to focus upon the improvements in quality of population. Otherwise, the demographic dividend of our economy may assume an ugly face and turn into a demographic burden. For this purpose, the planned allocation of resources is also required, along with the measures of population control. I hope you would have enjoyed this lecture. In the next lecture, we shall discuss about population dynamics and economic growth. Till then, goodbye and wish you all the best.